discuss the situation in South Korea, I'm being joined in this exclusive conversation with retired Lieutenant General Chun In-bom from the Republic of Korea, that's South Korea. Thank you so much, Lieutenant General, sir, for speaking with us here. Let's begin with what has really unfolded. We've seen major series of events that have unfolded in South Korea for a country that has often been hailed as a democracy. It is surprising to see martial law being imposed, albeit it was withdrawn only a few hours later. But the fact is that a martial law was imposed and was announced. Your reaction to the unfolding of these events?
So I think for me as a Korean, it's a vindication of the democratic system that has evolved through the 80 years of our history as a republic. Although, unfortunately, my president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces somehow felt that he needed to declare martial law, in the end, when the National Assembly took a vote, they vetoed his decision, and that vetoed decision was accepted by the president, and the military obeyed throughout. And in fact, the military was not very proactive in executing some of the missions that were prescribed in the initial martial law decree.
Lieutenant General Boom, could you elaborate on what exactly transpired and why there was a need to call for or impose martial law in the first place by the president?
So, according to President Yoon, he had concluded that the National Assembly, which is predominantly occupied by the opposition, was unilaterally passing laws to include impeachment of important members of his government, and as a last straw, unilaterally attempting to pass next year's budget. He saw all of this and the possible linkage to elements from North Korea as a direct threat to Korean freedom and democracy. So he basically decided to declare martial law.
A key issue, sir, that's now being discussed is whether South Korea's sovereignty and territorial integrity were at risk. Do you really believe that the opposition parties might have been playing into the hands of North Korea here?
Well, it's always been an attempt by North Korea to influence South Korean politics, directly or indirectly. That's a given. But this was a failure of politicians and Korean politics. They were incapable of negotiating, and it became a zero-sum game. And it's very unfortunate that they had to pull in the military to try to resolve a political problem.
Lieutenant General Boom, there has been a lot of internal political strife recently, with reports suggesting that the president ordered the arrests of both the leaders of the ruling party, Han Koo, and the leader of the main opposition party. How do you view these developments, especially in light of your earlier comments on the role of the opposition leaders and their potential links and connections with North Korea?
So it's very difficult for me to understand why the president gave such orders when he should have known that it was really on the brink of being illegal. And so this is a matter to be decided in the near future as the truth and more details come out. And it's so far, it's very unfortunate that he gave those directions. Now, it's still unclear as to if he did issue a directive to arrest the ruling party leader, Mr. Han. The president has denied that, but it seems he did imply, or the Minister of Defense directed that the head of the opposition was to be apprehended.
The other big thing that we're hearing is the call for the president's impeachment. Could you really explain what the impeachment process would really look like in South Korea? And do you think the situation really provides sufficient grounds for an impeachment proceeding against the president?
Yes. So the National Assembly yesterday passed a motion to impeach the president tomorrow at 5 p.m. Korea Standard Time. The National Assembly will have a plenary session. They will need a two-third majority vote to pass this bill. If this bill is passed, it will go to the constitutional courts. The constitutional courts will have 180 days to make their decision. During this time, once the bill is passed, the authority of the president will be immediately suspended. The prime minister will be the acting head of state.
Given the current political instability, sir, in South Korea and the country's precarious situation at the border, at the DMZ, how do you think all this will impact South Korea's security when it comes to North Korea?
Actually, North Korea is being very quiet. They don't want to influence the situation here in South Korea. So it's pretty quiet over there. Also, we have a strong alliance with the United States, and our soldiers are very much prone to the security needs of the Korean Peninsula. So we're on a good level of status. There's some negative effects to the morale of the troops, but it's not that it will affect our readiness.
Lieutenant General Boom, you mentioned the U.S. military, so I have to ask you this. Now, there is presence of the U.S. military in South Korea. There are U.S. bases. But is this, or could this just be a deterrent, especially considering the fact that there is also China support for North Korea? Where do you see, when it comes to this situation that's unfolding, in terms of deterrence versus the quiet that you were speaking of? Is this a lull before the storm, or are we actually looking at North Korea being prudent here?
No. North Korea is prudent in some ways, and they know that it is trying to affect South Korean politics, does not meet their immediate needs, and especially now. So I don't believe that they will try to do something. Now, for sure, they will try to use this as a propaganda item. As for China, their relationship with North Korea is not that great. And even if it was, I don't believe that just because we're having some political issues here, it's not a violent political issue. It's nobody was killed, nobody was hurt. I think it's just proof of the resilience of Korean democracy, and things are according to the rule of law in Korean society. So it's not as unstable as one might think. So I think North Korea knows this, as well as China.
Interesting. You made a very interesting comment, Lieutenant General Boom, on the relations between North Korea and China. Why do you really believe that the relationship between these two countries is not as strong as it was once?
The relationship between North Korea and Russia is quite close. It seems right now the relationship between Russia and North Korea is closer and exchanges more with the Russians than the Chinese. And although the Chinese are saying that everything is fine over and over again, if everything was fine, why would they say that over and over again? So it seems the relationship is not that great. Also, there is information that trade between North Korea and China have declined.
Finally, before I let you go, with a change in administration in Washington, D.C. and the difference in approach between the Trump administration and Biden administration regarding North Korea and South Korea, how do you foresee what is going to come of the next administration in Washington, D.C.? What are your predictions of what could happen when it comes to Trump administration vis-a-vis South Korea and North Korea, given that Trump has engaged the North Korean leadership in the past?
So definitely there will be a change in the relationship between the United States and Korea, but a new administration in the United States is a situation that it's not just Korea that must get used to this new environment. So I feel that we are up to the job. Compared to the Biden administration, I feel that there will be challenges, but then again, basically to me, what I hear is that the United States wants South Korea to be more responsible, not only for their own security, but for regional peace. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Lieutenant General Chun In-bom, thank you so much for joining us here in this exclusive conversation with India Today Global.